Hello and welcome back to Teppou Republic. On the last episode, we saw a sneaky steal from the Nagoka clan as Takayuki stole a besieged castle away from them after it was attacked by another clan. However, the Kakegawa clan to the south came to attempt to steal South Shinano from us. However, our heavy artillery, rocket and bullet fire managed to destroy their melee-centric force before they could even get close to the castle, so their army was eradicated. Then the Obama pursued a Sioux naval force and engaged them in a fight from which they couldn't withdraw, and when, unfortunately, those men were lost to us, despite the balance bar saying it was an even fight. Then we took revenge on the Kakegawa, heading south to Totoimi province, where we besieged their capital. While besieging it, we were forced to enter a war with the Yodo clan, the guys who control Kyoto, meaning our western front is now open to attack. The Kakegawa sallied out and we saw our first proper line battle using modern infantry, and they were successfully able to eradicate the Kakegawa attackers. Now let's continue. How is it any different? Lord Todo wants to be the next Nobunaga. Half his staff operate in Owari, and his main military base is here and his designated trade port. This Lord of Iga is nothing like you'd expect given the stories about that place. Funny you'd say things like that. That's exactly what he hopes people will think. He wants the rest of the lords to think he's just like them, taking part in this war because he believes in his cause. But really, he's after making a republic. And what might that be? A country where the people are in charge, or at least have more say than we do now. That's his goal. All the travellers from Iga will tell you that. He could have announced it to them when he began this war. I don't know if it's possible, but if it is, then I'm prepared to fight for it. I must say, it's not like you to say something like that over nothing. A republic. Well, if you're in, so am I. So welcome back to Teppou Republic. These are the battle results from that sally with the Kakegawa attacking Takayuki's army. We lost a couple of hundred men, killing around 1,500. Good news, it means that the castle will have very few defenders left once we go into the next turn, so I should be able to sneakily steal it through an auto-resolve. Now, going through the news at the beginning, we see an interesting one, which is that we have the option to abolish swords, or at least make it so that regular people can't carry weapons in our domain, going against an ancient tradition whereby most people will carry 1 to 2 weapons at all times. So I decided that I'm going to go for the abolishment because it seems like a more modern, a more republican, a more revolutionary tactic to go for, overcoming the old ideas of honor and hopefully getting rid of all of the negative consequences of upholding those ideas. So we'll see what the consequences of that are later on. So as I said, the Kakegawa quickly fall, the survivors do at least, to Takayuki's attack, and the province of Totoimi is now ours. Excellent news. Now we still need to worry about the Obama clan, but really I'm worrying more about the Yodo, who have just declared war on us and are now stationed off to the west of Umi in Kyoto, and could attack us at any time, so I'm starting to withdraw my defences back down closer to Umi, relying less on the road north to stop the Obama, and more on defence around the castle itself. Now, some good diplomatic news is that I managed to get an alliance with the Satsuma clan, a large imperial force who control Kyushu. I also managed to get them to agree to go into a war with both the Nagoka and the Obama as part of the deal. I wanted to get them to go to war on the Yodo as well, but they refused. I also very cheekily asked if they'd give me some money, because I thought they might be quite rich, but no, they didn't want to. So I'm going to go for a straight up alliance deal. This is a new and powerful ally. I am actually technically more powerful than them, but my situation is probably much more fragile than theirs is, because they have a solid domain on an island. I have this weird shaped domain which could potentially be attacked from pretty much any direction, so not so stable really. Now, in the next end turn sequence, the Takasuki, who were the guys who drew us into this war with the Yodo, actually abandoned Setsu, the province who the Yodo appeared to be attempting to move towards. So dangerous, I thought the Yodo might be able to make early gains in this war. I'm moving Takehisa further west so that I can potentially help out in this situation if it starts going wrong. I have further problems in that Kawachi province is turning over to support the Shogun. This is because some of the neighbouring provinces are having a strong Shogun influence on it. I was wondering who this was. I know that my allies here have actually converted to supporting the Shogun, but they don't have any buildings which would suggest they're attempting to convert my provinces. I thought perhaps something in Ki was going on, so I moved down, and these guys do have some of the buildings that convert the provinces nearby to the shogunate cause. I know there's also one in Yamashiro, Kyoto. So this is a problem because it means Kawachi's public order is getting quite poor and I've had to exempt them from taxes. Now in the next end turn sequence, even though Setsu was abandoned, the Yodo decided to attack Kawachi instead, my province. I guess I should have guessed this would happen, since on hard difficulty the AI will make decisions just to screw you over, even at the expense of itself. So they've lost their chance to take Setsu and they're going to gamble on a win at Kawachi. Looking at the balance bar, looks like they might win. They have lots of melee infantry, which would be quite good because I only have a small castle here once they get inside. So I'm going to see what I can do and fight this battle out and at least inflict heavy casualties on the enemy if I can. The castle itself is indeed tiny, just a single wall around a tenshu, so my forces at the very least are going to be able to defend all the points on the wall the enemy will attack, but I'm not going to have anything in the way of a sacrifice and second tier strategy like I usually do. Instead, we're going to have to face the enemy fair and square, simply try and kill them before they reach our walls. You can see their main battle group here, advancing with some ranged units up front, low range ranged units that is, so those guys are going to have to get in pretty close, and then a bulk of melee units. Some of the other groups are mixes of ranged and melee units, but these ones on the east are mostly higher tier melee units. Here they've got Yari attendants, they've got Kyoto police, all units that could destroy my spear levy in melee once they get inside the castle, so very worrying. Here they have some more Kyoto police among their regular spear levy, so it looks like from the east side they are going to come at us with a heavy melee assault which could do serious damage. The actual ranged battle I'm not worried about because my garrison infantry inside the castle can easily win a ranged battle with the enemy's units. Here you can see some of their gunner attendants are being cut down as they approach the castle. This is because my super long range unit, these scouts, are sniping at them. Scouts are essentially a very low level light infantry unit, less powerful than sharpshooters, who in the original version of the game are the lowest level light infantry unit. Now my garrison infantry are able to start firing as well. The same thing on the east side where we're firing at these approaching melee units. Now we can't kill enough of them to make them rout before they reach the walls, unfortunately. Perhaps if it was just spear levy we'd be able to, but because the enemy has multiple regiments of higher tier melee inf, there's not much we can do to stop them reaching the walls. We can cut down a number of them. I think these Yarikachi are going to lose about a third of their men before they actually get close enough to engage my men in melee, which unfortunately is not enough. I need to kill far more than that to make up for the fact that I'm going to be absolutely slaughtered in terms of my garrison infantry once they get in close. Here you can see that on the north side they're using some of their ranged units to actually close to melee range. They're just charging right at me. It might seem like a silly idea, but it's actually a good idea because on this north side I have missile superiority, so it's in their interest to clog up my guys on the wall by forcing them to fight in melee to allow the rest of their units to get up to the wall without being shot at. So that they're expending some of their loyalists and reservists to attack the wall and distract my men, which I thought was actually a good idea. Meanwhile on the east side, their heavy units are starting to get in. I've deployed my spear levy onto the wall to try and hold the enemy back. But as I said, those men probably won't be able to win in one-to-one combat. I do have all these guys back here though, firing shots in and giving me a local numerical advantage which will boost my morale and dampen the enemies. Plus my morale is boosted pretty highly by the fact that I'm inside the last redoubt of a fortress, which essentially means my men will fight to the death. So I should be able to defeat the enemies around here by just having extreme casualties and having a sheer numerical advantage in terms of infantry. The problem is that overall I don't have one, so once the enemy starts bringing in more regiments, my numerical advantage will go away. Anyway, you can see here the enemy's reservists have got inside the castle, but they're doing a quite poor job of locking my guys down in melee. I managed to get my scouts out of the picture. I had to fall back. I'm using levy infantry to fight with them so that my garrison infantry, a superior missile unit, can continue firing out. so they haven't successfully pinned down that last garrison infantry unit who was gunning down their big, easy to hit formations. Here on the southwest corner, they're attacking with spear levy up a wall, but the garrison infantry inside inflicted so many casualties on them as they came in that they actually routed even before melee was joined, or just as it was joined, I should say. So they're doing quite well, and they're about to do the same to another unit. Here, all of those Yarikachi, Kyoto police Yari attendants, they're gone. They actually routed just a few seconds after they joined battle, which was excellent for me. I think they were just really unnerved from having taken fire as they came in. This means I can commit more forces to the northeast corner, where the rest of the enemy's melee units are not routing, are in fact destroying my men. So I'm pouring more guys into that little slaughter. Meanwhile, on the north side, things have cleared up. My ranged units are now firing as fast as they can into the enemy's units. The enemy are forcing to deploy their general on the north side there. So the general's going to come in and fight in melee, which is terrible for him because his small unit is very easy to gun down as it comes in. He'll take extreme casualties. Same thing is happening here for the spear levy. They're attempting to do what their brothers failed to do in just attacking the southwest corner where there are gunners on the walls. They kind of get pretty close and then they stop. I don't know why they stopped their charge, but as they stand there, they take another few volleys of fire, and then they decide to leave once they realise that that's a bad idea. So that unit routed with most of its strength intact, one of the smarter enemy units on the field. Now here you can see the enemy are putting heavy pressure on the northeast corner, but I've deployed these levy infantry outside the castle to hit them from the rear. The enemy are now quite severely outflanked here, and after my men start firing, the enemy units climbing up the wall there start to rout. They don't like taking fire from behind, and as you can see from the balance bar, things are pretty quickly going in my favour. Another volley routs off the last remaining units, and so all of the enemies start a mass rout all over the field. And my guys on the wall, it's going to be gunning them down as they go. The ones who are already inside the castle realistically can't escape because I'll have to be running through my men to get out, so my men will simply kill them. The game now freezes because I think the replay was slightly corrupted, but only right at the end here. Nothing significantly different happened, at least not as far as I can tell. And we can see the rest of the enemy force here running away, taking cannon fire as they go, and the ground is littered with enemy bodies. Overall, the Yodo assault on Kawachi has been very successfully repelled. I didn't actually expect this to work. I thought a fortress this small should be able to be conquered with sheer numbers. But in fact, the enemy's low morale units actually weren't able to do anything like it. It's a decisive victory for Sue. Lord Takehisa! Lord Takehisa, sir, word from Kawachi. The Yodo were repelled. No, more than that, they were destroyed. Word is that although they were able to overcome the castle's defences, as soon as they were inside they turned to flee, seeing the fighting spirit and skill of the soldiers lined up to form a second human wall with spears and rifles. Almost all of the enemies were slain as they ran, including 2 Yodo lords, sir. With the rest of their forces deployed against Setsu, this means the road to the capital is clear. If we take this charge, sir, we can liberate the Emperor by the end of the month. So here are the battle results from that fight. We lost over 400 men but destroyed over 1,700. Superb news given the initial balance of the fight. The Yodo force is repelled and Kawachi, as unruly as it is, has been saved. I am going to have to make repairs there at the castle since the castle was damaged by some of my own cannon fire in fact. The good news is that the enemy retreated into range of my ships, so I fired a few cannon shots at them, managed to kill some of their shogunate loyalists. They still have a fairly powerful force together there. They can put a few regiments worth of troops into the field. There's still nothing to worry about. So I'm deciding to take this opportunity to march straight towards Kyoto because now I know the Yodo don't have many forces left. We can see what they do have. They have about half a stack's worth of men hanging around. The problem is that Kyoto has over half a stack of garrison units, which means if they fall back and simply try and hold Kyoto, they will instantly have a full stack to fight me with, and then they can team up with the rest of their forces back down in Kawachi to actually gain an advantage over me. Now, at the same time as this is happening, I need to move Takayuki back towards the central Tsu domain just because the threat of an Obama invasion is still there. And if Takehisa is going to wander off towards Kyoto and potentially have a prolonged siege there, Umi will be in danger, so I want you to get troops back to defend it. Now the Takasuki are having problems with some other clan there who has invaded Setsu, but they destroy them in battle. The Yodo are gradually moving back to defend Kyoto, as I thought they might, which means there is going to be a slight struggle to actually get Kyoto. This still is going to be less of a struggle than it would have been if I hadn't had that fairly important victory at Kawachi. You can see I've also finished researching explosive shells, which means my naval forces now have a distinct advantage over clans who don't have this technology, because explosive shells can set wooden ships on fire, and most ships around now are going to be wooden before everyone starts researching iron ships. So this is excellent news for any future naval engagements, but for now I want to focus on what's happening here in Kyoto. You can see the enemy have fallen back and pretty much garrisoned the city up as fully as it can be, especially with the garrison forces filling up over half a stack of the army. Unfortunately, Takahisa can't go into the siege right away. He can get really close and have to wait another turn before the siege can begin, which means the Yodo could pull back more forces, but they can't get there soon enough. Now I actually get the consequences of me banning swords now. It's that the samurai are quite angry about the fact that I'm banning the wearing of swords in public, which is understandable, and I've basically got -2 to public order across all of my provinces. Now this is actually a large problem, because a lot of my provinces were already on the borderline. So now I have to think about recruiting lots of low-level units to start policing these provinces in order to keep order okay. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to have to exempt them from taxes, which is a problem because I'm already quite economically weak for a clan of my size, because all the areas I've captured are very poorly developed. Mainly because I've been spending all my money so far on actually getting together more military forces, because people keep declaring war on me. So hopefully there'll be a period of peace that actually lasts a few turns where I can rectify that situation. But for now, we can see I've begun the siege on Kyoto. The enemy have an advantage over me. You can see the balance bar is in their favour. They have absolutely loads of garrison infantry, which is a problem. They have a distinct missile advantage. They also have 20-pounder artillery guns, giving them a nice artillery advantage over my 6 and 12-pounder guns with a lower range. So a dangerous situation, and as I go into the next turn, the enemy sally out, which I guess I should have predicted. This time the balance bar is more even because the enemy don't have their fort walls tipping the balance bar in their favour. So I thought, well, let's fight it out, an even brawl. The enemy have a missile advantage, but I have a melee advantage, so if I can play my tactics right, hopefully this will mean I can win out. Plus the enemy has static artillery, which isn't going to be too useful to them in an attack. Let's see how it goes. Men of Su! Warriors of Su! Before us today, across these plains, stands the citadel of our emperor, held hostage by the lackeys of an illegitimate shogun. But even from here we can see the light that burns in the highest window, the symbol that the emperor watches over us and expects great deeds from us in his service, for which we will be rewarded unimaginably. And so lower your gaze to the downtrodden band of Yodo family slaves who are marched towards us like meat into a grinder. Fear not their shot, fear not their blades, for the heavens have already decided the victor this day. The battle begins. The enemy start their march towards us, and immediately I can see that their 20-pounder guns don't have horses to draw them. This means that they are static artillery, which I actually didn't know, and they're not going to be able to take part in the battle for the most part. So I was delighted to see this. I was quite worried about them, but now I know I don't have to worry so much about them. They also have mortars who have the same problem. My artillery, you can see it's already firing. It's actually way out of range, but you can manually control the artillery and exploit different firing angles which the AI can't do in order to maximize range and actually hit the enemy from very far away. My light artillery is particularly able to do that, these 6-pounder guns. So as the enemy walk in, I'm going to attempt to kill some of them with super inaccurate long range fire. It doesn't work. But anyway, you can see the main lines are arranged with my inferior missile units in the front and my big bulk of melee units behind. I've got General Takamichi with some cavalry out here on the left flank. On the far right, I've got some regular Yari Ki, just a single unit of them. So hopefully I can draw the enemy into melee. That's my initial plan. Although now that they don't have their artillery in play, the actual missile fight won't be so bad. because I now have artillery advantage in this battle, which means keeping the enemy at a distance and pounding them with artillery is a valid strategy, even if it means losing the missile fight in terms of the actual line battle going on the front line. So seeing this, I decided to be more conservative and keep my melee units behind the line for the most part and not attempt any sort of charge in the beginning. So now the enemy are getting closer. You can see my mortars and howitzers and light guns are basically pounding the enemy, gradually destroying some of their front leading units, and particularly trying to eliminate their elite melee units, which they have here in their second line. I think it's Doshin or something like that, who are an elite spear unit. Because I thought if I do engage in a big melee fight, I want to make sure I'm basically going to win it on all fronts by taking out their superior melee units. Here they have these gunner attendants, and if you look very carefully, you would have seen they just lost half their men in a period of about 2 seconds. That was because my sharpshooters on the front line are sniping them. Sharpshooters have extreme range and accuracy and are paid for by being a very expensive unit and by being absolutely awful in melee. So you can see I've already really damaged this unit. Here are the sharpshooters. They fire about 250 yards. The regular line infantry can only fire about 180, so they severely outrange them. I also have my matchlock militants as part of the line who can fire even less far. The enemy spotted my sharpshooters, and went to attack them with their 1 unit of saber cav, but I had some Yari attendants block them, and I thought these Yari attendants, being a spear unit, would be absolutely amazing and just destroy these saber cav. But actually, the saber cav have only lost a couple of men, as you can see, and they've already wiped out a third of my Yari attendants in those few seconds. So actually, they didn't do very well. And speaking of not doing very well, I didn't notice the enemy general charge my sharpshooters, and he charges through and basically annihilates the entire regiment because they're extremely weak in melee, those sharpshooters. So that was bad news. I was very distracted. I now notice and start getting some of my spear levels to fight with the enemy's general, which means the enemy general will be killed. But the loss of those expensive sharpshooters is quite annoying. So the main line is now engaging a fight which I will technically lose. My sharpshooters that I have on the right flank will be doing a good job of killing the enemies from a long range. But apart from that, I'm not relying on my frontline infantry to do the damage. You can see it's the artillery still pounding the enemy's lines. That's going to be doing an important part of the fighting here. The enemy has lots of low morale units to get rid of there in the middle in particular. Also in the middle here, you can see they're charging their elite spear infantry right at the line. Not a particularly good idea, because my guys who are attempting to shoot at the guys behind them are accidentally killing them and they rout quite quickly. The enemy saber cav are still fighting on. This is actually something that's different in this replay from the real fight. The enemy saber cav were defeated by this point. So while it looks like my sharpshooters are just being slowly wiped out by those saber cav, actually a lot more of those sharpshooters survived. It looks like in this replay they were severely damaged, which will have repercussions later on. So the main lines continue to engage. I now decide to attack them from behind with my Yari Ki. You can see I haven't really done any damage on this right flank to the enemy's regiments. But now that Yari Ki are getting involved, that's all going to change. I'm going to hit these recruits in the back with a cavalry charge. They're definitely not going to like that. It also does extreme damage to their numbers. The charge quickly kills around a third of the enemy's troops. And now in melee, my guys will take almost no casualties against those recruits who just don't know what they're doing with their the bayonets. The Yari Ki are quite experienced fighters and will do well. The enemy centre is breaking. Those men are breaking because the artillery have simply destroyed their morale and they're getting out of there. On their right flank, they have all their garrison infantry though, who are more powerful. They also have blocked line of sight, which means neither side is killing each other in the actual line battle. So all these regiments are pretty much full strength. But I'm willing to leave it like this because I can shift fire with my artillery and start firing at these guys while knowing I'm not going to be taking all that many casualties, since so many of the enemies can't fire at the moment. So the mortar shots are simply pounding down into these garrison infantry and doing extreme damage, with the rest of their army routing in the centre as well. They're not going to be happy. Here you can see I use my howitzer's shrapnel ability. They fired a shrapnel bomb which just tore up the edge of this garrison infantry regiment. Those shrapnel bombs are very powerful against infantry. And now just to hammer home the point that I want these guys dead, I'm going to hit them from the back with a Yari Ki charge. Now actually, in the real battle replay, this was the end of the battle, the enemy all chained out at this point. But in this corrupted version, I think because my sharpshooters were all killed, lots of the garrison infantry were still alive, so they don't rout, and instead they fight on. So you can see what's happening here. that these spear levy who are charging, they stop, and then they start turning back and going back to the line, because by this point in the real battle, all the enemies were routing, and I was moving my guys back to get out of the enemy's artillery range. So in the version you're seeing here, that hasn't happened, so the enemy are now chasing me back as I move back into position. So those sharpshooters in the real battle must have got loads of kills, because these full 2 regiments of guys are still alive as a result of me losing most of the sharpshooters. I think it all stemmed from the Yari attendants were the most corrupted thing, who didn't kill the saber cavalry as quickly as they really did. Anyway, aside from that, there's not much difference because those garrison infantry units just rout before they can fight anymore, so the end result is the same. Now all I need to do to finish the battle is take out the enemy's artillery. They have mortars and cannons back here, who I'm charging with my loosely spaced out Yariki. The Yariki hit the mortar team first, they fight for a couple of seconds and then move on. They can't get to the rest of the artillery before they can fire off another volley. That volley is aimed right at my general units who are also charging in. The 20-pounder guns miss, but the more powerful explosive cannons take out a large number of the horses rushing across the field towards them. Inconvenient, but luckily they were only hitting the edges of the unit, so the generals themselves who ride in the middle wouldn't have been under threat. So now the rest of the enemy's crew withdraws from battle. One of the crews didn't even take part in the fight, they decided to rout due to army losses, and a decisive victory is declared. Excellent news. This means that the battle for Kyoto is not really going to happen, because the majority of the Yodo force has been defeated in this sally. We'll see how much stuff they have left, but it does look like the Sioux forces are going to be taking the capital in the very near future, which is a very important symbolic gain. I can't say I'm completely comfortable now. Takahisa has proven himself a great warrior and perhaps even a great general, but as a leader of men he falls short. His men have little faith in him. It's only the authority of me, this family, that compels them to follow him. And now, with his last triumph, the capital will be under his control, at least for a time. He might be my son, but I will not sway from saying this is a bad thing. He does not have the head to govern, nor the tact to treat with the Emperor on behalf of our domain. But with the Obama army stirring, I am forced to exhibit some faith. So look at these battle results, pretty good. We lost about 200 men, killing about 2,000. We also captured their big fort artillery guns, which is excellent. The enemy force has pretty much been reduced to a single regiment, which means Kyoto is now all but undefended. The problem I'm having is that some of my newly captured domains are starting to revolt. You can see even Mino is having problems with unrest. Now if you go 2 turns with a negative public order, a rebellion will occur in the province, and some of these places have already had negative order for 1 turn, so I'm forced to exempt them from tax to make sure it doesn't happen again. Annoying, because this is a severe dampening force on my income. Now you can see there's an Obama army sitting on the border north of Umi. There's also more who I spotted in the end turn sequence moving about back there. So I'm getting Takayuki into an ambush position on this road, waiting for them to come down. You can see I also accidentally put some Naginata Levy in a forward ambush position. This is actually an okay strategy, even though it was a mistake, because it means when the Obama discover them, they'll attempt to chase them around, which will waste some of the enemy's movement points as they come in. And I'm also moving some ships back into the Bay of Owari because I want to repair my trade port, but before I do that I want ships ready so the Nagoka can't just show up again and destroy it, hence making me repairing it be a waste of money. I also spotted that my allies here in Ise, or not my allies, but my close friends, have a very highly developed province, and I'm thinking it would be logical for Ise to be in my hands, plus they are Shogunate sympathizers. So that's something to think about for the future, but for now, Kyoto is almost in our grasp, but we're seeing that next time. that's all for this episode. We will be saving the Emperor and attempting to consolidate our position next time on Teppou Republic.